Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fortress of Comic News, episode 221.1. That's right, everybody. You're getting an extra episode this week because we have a special guest, which I'm going to introduce in a minute. But I am one of your hosts here, Chris, and I would like to welcome my returning co-host, Mike.
I'm back for a couple weeks again.
And our very special guest, Will Allred. What's going on, Will?
Hey. How's it going? Yeah, it's doing well on this end. Trying to stay cool.
I'm really happy that Chris got your last name right, and also he can do math with the 0.1. So we're off to a great start this week.
But Will has the luxury of having the same last name of one of my favorite artists in the comic industry, so I know Allred very well.
Okay.
No relation that I know of, but strangely enough, my son is named. I have a Michael Allred as one of so I have a Mike Allred as a son.
Okay.
I'm not that old though, so it's not that Mike Allred.
Awesome. So, Will, this is your first time on the show. It certainly won't be your last, I think, but let's get a little into your origin story quick. Of obviously you come from academia. You have a PhD in English. So what was the origin story for you of getting into comics, and have you always read comics and stuff? Take us back.
Pretty much. Like the earliest comic I can remember is buying it off the newsstand a long time ago. Was probably Green Lantern. I think it's 121. Hal's falling out of the plane. Green Lantern's going to shoot him his ring because, of course, he lost it.
Right. Yeah.
Why would you keep that on your finger or anything? But ever since then, it's just I've been a reader. And strangely enough, even though Green Lantern's the first comic I remember, buying or getting bought for me, I was always a Marvel kid. Avengers by Stern, Gru's Cap. Mark Grunwald's Cap. You get David Michelini, writing Amazing Spider-Man, the X-Men around that time. That was, my favoriteest comic in the world is right here. And I probably
he always keeps it near him.
Well, I kept the original issues very near me all the time. But I probably read my original copies of the deluxe edition I've still got them, but they're not definitely not near mint by this point because I read them so much.
They're reading copies for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But that's just a love of reading, and then when I went to college, got a degree, got a job in IT. And since I work at the university, one of the great benefits that they gave us was the ability to take classes. So took classes, got the master's degree in English, said I am never going back. I think it was a semester later when my wife slapped me upside the head when I told her that, hey, I'm going to go with a PhD now. Yeah. I think that took, about 15 total years since I was working full time. So
wow, it's a lot of school.
Yes, indeed.
And then you started teaching yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I still do IT as kind of the day job. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that, I wanted to try was try my hand at teaching. And honestly, it was, there's a local community college here in Northwest Arkansas that I work at the University of Arkansas, the land grant institution, but a local junior college, was looking for somebody to teach English. And I was like, let's give this a try. And I'm honestly surprised at how much I love doing it. I couldn't do it full time because, house payments, and I do like to eat and things like that. But,
that's a plus.
And buy comics, of course. But
of course, you got to afford that.
It was really fun, and every 2 or 3 semesters they would let me teach a comics and graphic novels class, which was just awesome. Because
what's that like? Because I've never heard of a comics and graphic novel class.
It was really kind of a confidentially, it was, hey, these are the books that Will really likes, so we're going to talk about them for a semester. And your tests are really easy. They're multiple choice, and you have to, But what I did was I tried to focus on it more as an introductory class to kind of the big two. I tried to focus on some of the writers, like Grant Morrison, Alan Moore. You can't teach a graphic novels class and not talk about Dark Knight. You have to have Miller in there.
Correct.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just so much fun. We would basically, I'd come in and try to give, like a 30 or 40 minute lecture on some history of comic stuff, and then, talk about the writer and the artist that we were going to talk about, for that class. And it was a night class. So we had like 3 hours, and it was great. Once a week I'd go in, get paid to talk about comics for 3 hours, and come home a happy man.
That's my dream job. Chris and I do that for fun. Can you imagine if we got paid, Chris? What the hell?
That's awesome. Amazing. That sounds way better than the one night class I took, which was government and politics.
Oh, God.
Wow.
3.5 hours of that was a little too much.
Yeah. What the hell?
I can imagine.
Yeah. So you teaching and stuff. When does Diary of Night come into play? Because that's your first book, right?
Yeah, that was several years ago. So before I was teaching several years ago, I had written the script and just started looking for an artist. I literally had no idea what I was doing. I was like, is this what a script should look like? I didn't know. So I found Gene Gonzalez, who's an awesome artist, great storyteller. And we did the first issue, and then I'm like, let's go ahead and do all 4 of them. And we did them, and then we found a publisher, which is long since defunct, but Bloodfire Studios. And they put out the individual issues in the direct market for us. And it was a huge learning process because like I said, I had no idea. Like, can I do this? Well, I did it. Nobody hit me with anything, so I guess it's okay,
Right. It wasn't that bad. Yeah,
it wasn't that bad, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And then, Kickstarter kicked up, a few years ago, and I was like, we've got all this art. It was never collected, in a trade. So I decided to say, hey, let's give this a go. And honestly, my first time at bat was a dismal failure. You've got to build the audience before it's called crowdfunding for a reason, not funding crowd, right? So,
yeah. You thought it'd be easier with Kickstarter being around,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first time out, I failed miserably. And I said, okay, I got to step back. And I looked into the podcast, the Comics Launch podcast with Tyler James, and I said, "Okay, cool. This guy knows what he's talking about." And then they also do the Comics Launch Pro, which is classes and workbooks and all kinds of stuff to step by step guide you through it. And I did that, relaunched the Diary trade in hardcover, and we got it funded. So it was pretty awesome, and that kind of got me thinking. Well, I still, and actually, kind of during this time, I had went to the Comics Experience by Andy Schmidt, and said, what am I missing here? Maybe of course I don't know what I'm doing, so I took like the Intro to Writing class, and which was great, but it also opened up that network because they have their creators workshop forum over there. So you start networking and getting to know other writers, artists, editors, and it was really great. So between that and the Comics Launch community, I think that really helped me get to a position where we could launch Crossover Division, which is something that I've been working on for a few years. Lucky to find. Yeah, sorry.
You were a little more prepared for the first Crossover Division.
Yeah, and I went overboard on it, as I'm kind of, I guess, want to do. But anyway,
yeah.
It was I like the round number of about 24 pages per issue, which is, 4 pages more than, I guess, what Marvel and DC are doing at this point.
Right.
And more than even the 22 standard pages. So that was kind of my target, was that I want to do 24 pages. And then I had basically written an 8-page story that Pablo drew the art for, and brilliantly. I mean, it's beautiful. That was going to be part of a pitch package. So, we were basically working on getting the pitch package together so that we could, pitch this to, pick your company at this point. And then this little global pandemic thing hit, and Diamond shut down, and the publisher shut down, and I was like, wow, I hadn't realized before, how little control as a creator I had going through a publisher. And I'm like, you know what? I'm friends with Kat and with Kevin, and they've been serializing comics on Kickstarter for a few years now. They've shown it can be done. That's what I'm going to try to do. So we launched Crossover Division #1 late last year. Got it funded, and then we just launched #2 on Thursday, and so far so good. It's jumped up there quick, which makes me happy.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because it's over. I mean, what is Crossover Division? Because Chris and I got our hands on issue 1. I really enjoyed it. War of the Worlds, huge fan. So you're kind of almost combining your literary novel experience with comics, right? I mean, you're kind of combining the two worlds. So how does that work?
So a lot of this kind of comes back to, there's a lot of comics influences on Crossover Division. I don't even try to hide them. I'm not even filing off the serial numbers. They're pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's important to me as a storyteller is truth, and I don't just mean facts. Facts are important, but truth is important. And we use fiction, we use lies to tell, hopefully, deeper truths. But what happens when lies just kind of become part of our normal everyday reality, right? Hey, trickle down economics, that works. When no, it doesn't. All of the research behind it says no, it never worked. But for 40 years, it's been, guiding decisions and, influencing our reality. And, I got to thinking, well, how can I dramatize that? And one of the things is, well, what if, we have these public domain, we have these public domain works of literature that have been so influential, even in today's culture. You have every sitcom, not every sitcom, but probably a huge percentage of the sitcoms, they have a Christmas Carol episode. And not just the sitcoms. You have it, showing up in, hour dramas or cop shows. You have, and that book casts such a long shadow. You have books like Frankenstein, Dracula. I am a tremendous fan of H.G. Wells and what he was trying to do with science fiction, early science fiction, modern science fiction, I guess. When he was writing it, because he called it social fiction. It was holding up a lens to something, about, his contemporary reality. And I that just kind of all clicked, and I said, okay, well, what if this happened? What if? What if we do this? What if we do that? And I'll be honest, it is a tremendous amount of fun playing with some of these toys that I didn't create. I've got. We haven't done Frankenstein yet, but I've got one in mind.
All right,
how that's going to work.
Awesome, yeah.
Actually, I've got the series pretty much mapped out. If we don't spend if we spend just the bare minimum time in kind of the Act 2 stuff, then the series will probably be about 20 issues. But there's nothing necessarily that'll push it. If things are going great and people like it, and we want to keep doing it, then there's nothing really. There's a few dominoes that get pushed over later in the second act that we just don't necessarily have to push over, to bring on the Act 3 and kind of the rest of it. I already know what the ending of the series is. I've already got some of it written, actually. But
yeah.
So you're bringing in all these different elements, all these different fictions together. What is the connecting tissue between each issue that brings them together into one series?
So you basically have crossover division, which the high concept pitch is the fictional worlds are invading reality, and only a professor of English and a research librarian can save us, from them and give us a happy ending, basically. But so they basically act to, they go out. It's almost, kind of like a procedural. Well, hey, what's happening now? Hey, the War of the Worlds is crossing over in this town. Go stop it before bad things happen, right? So
almost like a Men in Black division.
Actually, yes, very much so.
For stories unfolding, right?
For English nerds, yeah.
For English nerds. But it's kind of cool because you get to pick all the cool stories that you start off with the tripod from that, and it's like, okay, well, it's going to just one tripod is going to tear through this apartment building, and that's where we're going to start the story off, right?
Yep. And then in our backup story, the 8-page pitch we did not Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Short 8-page Wizard of Oz story, which was, I think, kind of fun. And getting, like I said, getting to play with those characters and some of those characters and some of those toys is really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
So this is kind of a very baseline question, I know, but for people who may not understand, like, what is public domain, and like, how are you able to use these characters to tell your own stories, or these stories to tell your own stories?
That's a good point.
Well, I love the public domain because it's it's basically our cultural heritage when you get right down to it. Before TV and radio, we had books, right?
Yeah. So
copyright and trademark and all that stuff is boring legal things, but recently copyright has been extended and extended and extended. So there's a treasure trove of stuff from the early 20th century that is not in print and can't be reprinted, and it's not available via the public domain. But I've tried to steer clear of that and go further back to things like, H.G. Wells. It used to be life of the author plus 25 years, and then every time Mickey Mouse is about to come up for public domain, Disney pumps some cash into Congress, and it gets extended. Now it's like
they change it up. Yeah.
But something that was like War of the Worlds, for instance, was written back when copyright was like life of the author plus maybe 20 years or something like. So it fell into the public domain. And one of the things that I just love the idea of it is something like Project Gutenberg, which is just this huge repository of this cultural treasure. There's no other way to describe it. It's just cultural treasure. You can run out to Project Gutenberg and download the full text of Frankenstein or the full text of Dracula, and just read it on your tablet or whatever. The works, the complete works of Mark Twain. You can download all of Shakespeare. It's just so amazing that we could have that freely available to us. I know we have libraries, and libraries are great. But the fact that you could just have it and do with it what you want. One of the cool things, my wife's an artist. She does graphic design and for the university as well. But she also took classes there. One of the classes she took was bookmaking. So we actually, one of the books that I love, probably almost more than any other, is A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. So we downloaded the text and bound our own little books. That is A Princess of Mars.
That's awesome.
Which is pretty fun. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. You did that in a class. That's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we'll talk about, we got a crossover division number 2 coming up, and you're dipping a little bit into Dracula for this one, right?
Yes. It's kind of fun. I mean, because Diary of Night was, a vampire story, a slightly different take on vampires. And I thought it would be fun to, one, go from, early science fiction and jump over to kind of gothic horror, with Dracula. And the other thing I like to do is, none of these works are perfect. I like to try to see what's really cool about them and try to highlight what's really cool about them. But I also don't want to just gloss over what's wrong with them. And, if you look at Dracula, the treatment of women in Dracula is not exactly stellar, especially if you look at the brides, okay?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I was working on the script for the second issue, and I was like, okay, this bride, I'm like, wait a minute. I went back and I searched through, for the bride. They're not even given names. They don't have names, and they're just the brides of Dracula. I'm like, okay, you're Alpha, you're Bravo, and you're Charlie. And that's what we started in the script.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. The artists, and, I'm like, okay, Alpha's here, Bravo's here, Charlie's here. So
yeah, right.
It's something that, it's a fine line to walk. I want to be respectful of the original material, but I also want to show where perhaps maybe it fell short a little bit of, of our standards of today anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best way to go about it. And, I mean, you can't have the brides of Dracula and not have them also be terrifying and menacing too, right? Like, come on.
Absolutely. But, the question I kind of ask, I guess, hopefully in this issue, and hopefully I answer it pretty well, is that, are they so scary because they're vampires, or are they so scary because they're women who are completely free of society's demands upon them? So
nice.
Hopefully I didn't screw it up too bad. I guess we'll see, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like an interesting approach. So, and before we get into the Kickstarter, I mean, you definitely have you're building this universe here and stuff. Is there, and you don't have an end in sight really, but is there ever a plan to take a story because like War of the Worlds, Dracula, they're both kind of bad things happening. Is there a story that you've kind of locked on that's not so dreadful maybe, or is it all is it always going to be a bad day in the lives of the crossover?
I don't think so. As much as I love A Princess of Mars, of course, John Carter's going to have to make an appearance one of these days, just because.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Why not? Right.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
I think I probably revealed this in my newsletter, but we can talk about it anyway. Okay. Issues 3 and 4 deal with Shakespeare, actually.
Oh, interesting.
So there's some spoilers in there, but let's just say the 4th issue deals with one of the plays that annoys me greatly.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I think I know I've written already a Jekyll and Hyde issue of Crossover Division.
Okay. Very cool.
In my head, I've plotted a little bit of number 8, which will, I hope, be dealing with Sherlock Holmes a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So I mean, there's a whole range,
detective fiction, gothic fiction, science fiction, maybe and some romance, perhaps. We'll see.
Okay, wow, that's awesome. So, I mean, let's talk about issue 2. It went up like a few days ago. You're already at over 50%. So, I think it's safe to say you built that fan base you're looking for, right?
it was a very, very humbling launch. Know that many people came out, on day 1 and day 2, just to get us up that high. And so thanks everybody. That was awesome. Now we've got, I'm going to have some milestone bonuses that we're going to reveal probably later today when I do an update. We have lots of those variant covers, and one of the variant covers hasn't been revealed yet. And one of the reasons for that is that Alice Leclerc, who's the artist on this cover, we're going to follow her process. In fact, I'm going to post her rough sketch cover idea probably in this update. So we'll follow it from rough sketch idea all the way to the finished cover, and everybody should be able to see, 1, how awesome she is, and 2, how awesome the cover is going to be.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept to show like the work and how it goes into it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I don't know, this probably comes from Tyler James over at Comics Launch, or from a little bit of experience too, is that the more I always strive to have all the artwork done for the issue before we launch. We've only got 2 pages left to finish at this point, so I'm not too worried about that. But it's one less thing to worry about. I mean, there's so many moving parts that I'm sure I forget. I'm sure I've forgotten a lot of the lessons that Tyler taught me, and hopefully he won't be embarrassed, but we keep trying.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I love that behind the scenes stuff with the art, because I don't think enough people realize how much work goes into each panel and each page.
Oh, so it's amazing. I mean, and I'm sure Pablo, will pick up a page and say, I'll have written splash page, 1,000 undead over here, something stupid. I'm like, that took me 10 minutes to write. He spends like a week or 3 or 4 days on that page. Probably grumbling, stupid writer,
Right. What the hell?
Speaking of,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of Pablo, I mean, let's talk about your creative team. Shout them out.
Yeah, we have an awesome team. Pablo is an amazing artist. I basically put the word out, I guess it was 2 years ago. I can't remember. It was somewhere in Twitter. I put the word out that I was looking for some art, an artist for this book, and I actually got a lot of really great artists, sending me in their portfolios and everything. And then, it was just, okay, does this style fit with kind of what we're going for? And and can I afford this artist? That's always important.
That's another thing. Yeah.
And Pablo's really, stood out. So I got in contact with him, and we started out with doing, some character designs, and then we got to work on the 8-page short. And, I feel like we work really well together. He's really, in number 1, there's a panel where I say Daniel, which is he's a crossover division agent. Stuff happens in number 1, so we're not going to spoil that. But Daniel is kind of facing down the walker, and he did it as a reflection inside the Martian walker. And you just see Daniel's reflection in the walker. I'm like, I just said he's in front of the walker, dude, you knocked that one out of the park. So I would have never even considered that. I mean, and that's one of the great things about, working with a team and, collaborating. It's, we make each other better. And that's awesome. But along with Pablo, we've got Brant Fowler, who is an awesome letterer and designer. He did our logo. and he did a lot of the design work. If there's anything that looks cool that's not art, like the letter, thinking the backers, Brant designed all that stuff, and he's awesome.
Yeah.
In our first, so we've been through a few editors, and I don't know if that's on me or just schedules. I hope it's just on schedules, but Jim Gibbons was the editor on our first 8-page story and helped me develop the pitch and all that fun stuff. And then scheduling, he wasn't able to continue. So then I found Hassan, who is, I have to say this every time. I think we wrote it into the contract. Actually, I'm just kidding. Eisner Award-winning Hassan Otzman Elhau. Eisner Award winner. Okay. I have to say that just because he's awesome.
That's part of his name now, right? The Eisner
it's part of his name, yeah. Eisner Award winner.
Yeah.
He was our editor for the first issue and also kind of looked over the 8-page short. But I feel like I was really lucky, and we as a team were really lucky to snag him for the time that we had him. But between panel by panel and all the lettering, I mean, he's an amazing letterer too. He had some scheduling conflicts, so I brought in James Powell, who is the writer of House of Fear. So he's going to be our editor on number 2. He's the editor on number 2 and moving forward. And we're still enjoying working together. So I think I personally I wasn't convinced early on the value of an editor before Crossover Division. And as I was getting feedback on the script, via Comics experience and, from kind of like my writing group and everything, I started really thinking that, an editor would probably help. Yeah. And once I got with Jim and then, with Haas and now James, they don't just help. They, at least in my experience, the editors have made me a better writer, and they've also done, I think, something even more important, which is make the story better. And that's kind of where my loyalty lies, is with the story. If I've written brilliant swath of text and it just doesn't work for the story, then it has to go, right? So if Pablo comes up with changes and they make the story better, it doesn't matter what I wrote. The story's better. We move on and we go with whatever works best for the story.
Yeah. I guess sometimes it's hard to set aside, like, you're like, I just wrote like a really good bunch of stuff, but then the editor comes in and is like, yeah, but it's just a bunch of stuff, like
exactly.
You might feel good about it, but and you like it, but it doesn't fit, yeah, it's just another set of eyes there.
I had a sequence in number 2, where Hank goes through orientation, like HR orientation for Crossover Division. So, it's basically a page, and I loved writing it, and I love the page. He's basically watching a film about, blah, 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 stupid HR stuff, right?
Yeah.
And, he's getting tireder, and he's drooping, and finally, thud, his head hits the table. And I'm like, I love this so much. And I looked at the page before it and the page after it, and I went, copy, paste, save that page out. Okay, now I'm going to put something else there. So,
yeah.
It's even the self-editing. I like having another set of eyeballs. I feel like with the team that we've got, all eyes are on making the story better. So it's great. It's great working with these guys.
Yeah, and it seems really popular. You're already over 50% backed here, and you said you got some maybe today or next week. You'll start revealing some extra stretch goals.
Hopefully today or tomorrow. We'll see how that works out. I'm got to make sure I've got all the images and graphics ready, and we will definitely start revealing, the process on Alice's cover, and the first issue did well. We overfunded by a bit, and I didn't even really consider stretch goals because it was a more gradual build until we funded like a day or two before the end of it.
Right.
With this one, I'm starting to consider, well, what are we going to do for stretch goals now? Because we're getting close. I'm like, well, okay,
right.
We're gonna better paper, better cover stock. Those are cool things. I don't know. That's something it's new territory, so it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
So if you go to the Kickstarter now, you've also got some cool tiers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got what we expect of the digital version, the print version, some variant copies. When you go a little bit further down, everybody, you start offering like commissions, black and white, full color, all these great little things. The ones I wanted to ask about were like the be a crossover agent and be a dreamer. Are those for the next issue?
No, that's for this issue. We will put those likenesses in this issue. The dreamer, that's the person that's causing the crossover. Their love or obsession with the work in question is what's bridging the gap between our universes and trying to start emerging of our two realities. So we actually did that in the first issue as well, and that's one of our backers is the dreamer. One of the things, I actually gave him a few extra lines once that reward had been claimed. I'm like, okay, well, hey, he just really helped us out. Let's add a few more words for him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We have. In the second issue, Hank is kind of given a little bit of a tour around the regional crossover division headquarters. So there's going to be some agents around. I thought that'd be kind of a cool thing. And since we're going to have artwork with the backer's likeness, we're also going to do badges for them. Crossover division agent.
That's so cool.
With their art.
That is awesome. Yeah, that is really cool. Oh man!
I think that just seemed like fun. I was like, well, what can I do?
Yeah.
One of the things I did, and I think people really liked it. I know I really enjoyed doing it. Was for Diary of Night. What I did for backer thank you letters is I hand wrote about 80 or 90 of them. It took a while.
Yeah,
you're a good man.
Yeah,
but I folded them over, and then we got we got wax. So we did a wax seal, like it was it looked very 16th, 17th century with a wax seal
on giant
it.
wax.
And,
nice.
Yeah, it was, and that was fun just because we got to play with hot wax and
yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
And then for Crossover Division 2, I wanted to kind of, if you look in number 1, you see this letter, thank you, agent. It looks like a form letter, right?
Yep.
One of my kind of conceits is that they're a little bit bureaucratic.
Okay.
So what I did is I did a thank you letter that looks kind of like a form letter. And, thank you for becoming a new agent, blah, blah, blah. And I found this great stamp, rubber stamp. And I stamped all of them with this big red top secret. And
that's awesome.
It was fun. It was just, It was a whole lot of fun.
It's funny you say that. I got a Kickstarter recently, and I was going to bring it up to you because I thought it was a cool idea. And it came in this. Everybody out there, it's
a file folder.
File folder with top secret on it.
That is awesome.
I literally got it in the mail and I opened it. I was like, what is this? And then the creator even made like fake government documents.
Redacted documents. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to model successful behavior and make a note.
Yeah, take some notes on it. Yeah.
But that immediately popped in my head when you were talking about that. Because I'm like, that'd be cool for your thing too. Crossover division, top secret.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's still almost a month to fund, and I have no doubts that you'll get there. It's Crossover Division number 2, The Brides of Dracula Attack on Kickstarter. But you have your own website and stuff too. If our listeners, viewers want to find you, where can we send them for that?
I've got crossoverdivsion.com. If they're interested in Diary of Night, diaryofnight.com is out there as well. And then I've got my own website, which, I mean, there's not really much stuff out there. I'm still working on setting up some kind of storefront so I can start selling, the trades of diary or the hardcovers and things like that. And I think on all of those sites, I've got a link to subscribe to my weekly newsletter where I talk about, how I avoided writing this week, or
Yep.
Actually, this is another thing that I had to be kind of led to by the comics launch training. Was people don't want to hear from me. Surely they don't. And they're like, no, trust me, just do it. So
yeah, right.
I've been doing the newsletter for a couple of years now, and I found that it actually helps me write because I've kind of treated my readers as my accountability partner. I'm like, okay, I'm going to set a really modest goal of 4 pages of script a week.
Yep.
And I really don't want to tell them that I slacked off playing Breath of the Wild and didn't write my 4 pages. So I typically get them done.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
I've shamed myself into it.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. You gotta have somebody accountable to you.
Yeah.
So everybody out there listening, watching, all those links will be down below, including Will's website, crossoverdivsion.com, and of course the Kickstarter page. So make sure you go check it out. And if you're sitting there going like, it's issue 2, I can't jump into it, there's a tier where you can get 1 and 2 or just 1. It's, Will thought of everything for you. So
we tried.
It's got it all there.
So, Will, thanks so much for taking the time with us, man. It was great talking to you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
And best of luck with the project moving forward.
Thanks. Thanks a bunch.